Today, we're unpacking a massive shift in an absolute global phenomenon. Bridgerton isn't just returning for Season 5, it's undergoing a bold evolution. We're going to look closely at how a culture-defining period franchise is intentionally breaking its own rules to completely redefine the romance genre as we know it. Okay, let's dive into this. Why is Bridgerton breaking its own rules for Season 5? Since its debut, the show built this massive, incredibly loyal global audience on a very specific, highly successful formula. It perfectly blended Regency-era storytelling with modern energy. We're talking orchestral pop covers, glamorous balls, explosive passions. It was a guaranteed recipe for success, right? So why pivot away from the very formula that made it a worldwide sensation? Well, that's exactly what we're going to map out and understand today.
We are definitely entering much deeper waters this time around. We'll be looking at Francesca's heavy grief over the loss of her husband, John Stirling. We're exploring Michaela's hidden guilt and vulnerability. We're also going to look at the show actively skipping the original book order to give us a franchise-first LGBTQ+ lead. Basically, what this tells us is that the series is zooming way in on complex character psychology. It's moving away from the lighthearted fairy tale vibe and fully embracing these emotionally layered, difficult human experiences.
But this evolution didn't just happen overnight. It's actually been building across the franchise's entire timeline. Think back to the 2020 premiere. It successfully modernized the Regency era with those amazing pop covers and vibrant ballrooms. Then, Queen Charlotte expanded the universe, proving audiences would totally stay emotionally connected to stories outside the main timeline. In Season 4, Benedict and Sophie's romance introduced themes of class division, really pushing the narrative beyond purely aristocratic bubbles. And now, Season 5 introduces a groundbreaking LGBTQ+ lead. When you look at it all together, this timeline shows a franchise that has consistently pushed its own boundaries, step by step, leading directly to this ambitious moment.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core difference in the narrative structure. Think about the previous Bridgerton romances for a second. They were driven by immediate passion, explosive chemistry, and characters desperately searching for a great love right from episode 1. But contrast that with Francesca's journey. She is trying to rebuild her life through duty. She's seeking stability while managing deep, profound grief. She isn't just looking for another explosive romance. Her story is incredibly complicated emotionally and steeped in loss. It's just a completely different starting line for a romantic lead.
To really understand Francesca's mindset right now, we kind of have to look at her new reality. She is now the Countess of Kilmartin. And that title, it represents a massive shift. For years, viewers watched Francesca as one of the quieter siblings, often just standing in the background while her brothers and sisters completely dominated the spotlight. But she is no longer that background character, not anymore. She's evolving into a woman carrying heavy new responsibilities and really profound emotional burdens. She's trying to practically return to society, sure, but as a leader who is simultaneously navigating the profound loss of John. So, how exactly does love bloom from grief? Let's trace the steps of this developing connection. Step 1 actually started quietly last season, with Francesca and Michaela finding quiet comfort together during the immense grief of losing John. It wasn't some spark of instant passion, it was a shared emotional weight. Step 2, Michaela, recognizing these deepening feelings, actively choosing to walk away rather than confront them. And finally, Step 3 sets the stage for Season 5, Michaela's return to London. This return forces both of these women to finally face the unresolved emotional tension they've been trying so hard to avoid. It's an incredibly natural, emotionally weighty progression that was laid so carefully in the previous season. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we get to peel back Michaela's layers. On the surface, she presents this incredibly charming and confident exterior to the world. But right beneath that, she is secretly struggling with profound vulnerability. She's carrying intense guilt over John's memory, and she's actively avoiding all of this unresolved emotional tension connected to Francesca. Michaela is far more layered and conflicted than her confident surface suggests. And honestly, that internal battle is going to be one of the strongest emotional engines of the upcoming season. All of this careful character work leads us to a truly historic milestone. Francesca and Michaela's romance represents the first major LGBTQ love story to lead the series. Now, while the show has always challenged traditional period drama expectations with diverse casting and modern influences, placing this relationship at the absolute center marks a groundbreaking shift for the genre. And because of the careful groundwork we just discussed, this milestone feels like a completely natural storytelling progression rather than a sudden change. This matters so much because it permanently expands what a mainstream global romance can actually look like on our screens. Of course, whenever a massive franchise makes a change like this, there are always going to be questions. And the biggest one causing some friction in the fandom right now is, but what about Eloise? A lot of viewers originally expected Eloise's storyline to take center stage next, strictly based on the timeline established in the original novels. So let's look behind the curtain a bit to understand exactly why the writers made this timeline shift, and why it actually makes perfect sense for the series as a whole. When you compare the character focus here, the narrative momentum becomes crystal clear. Francesca and Michaela have incredibly strong emotional momentum heading into Season 5. Their story is primed and ready for center stage right now. Eloise, on the other hand, well, while she is beloved, she has a future arc that still requires further development before she can anchor her own season. The series altered the novel's timeline purely for storytelling momentum. It's really that simple. This ensures that both characters actually get the pacing and the narrative development they truly need.
So the crucial point is captured perfectly in this quote. The writers are more interested in telling emotionally meaningful stories than simply repeating the same formula over and over again. The show knows what works, absolutely, but it refuses to just stagnate. Not every single creative decision will satisfy every single viewer, but whether it's through modern music, complex characters, or unexpected relationships, this constant reinvention is key. This willingness to evolve past repetitive formulas is exactly why the franchise continues to totally dominate global conversations year after year.
Which brings us to our final lingering thought for this explainer. How will this bold emotional leap change our expectations for the period drama forever? Because Francesca and Michaela aren't just leading Season 5, they are literally redefining what it means to be the center of a historical romance. By prioritizing grief, duty, and a groundbreaking connection over that standard passion formula, Bridgerton is challenging us to expect way more depth and complexity from our television romances. Definitely keep this question in mind as you watch the new season unfold. Thank you so much for learning with me today, and I'll see you for our next explainer.